Trade deadlines are here, so you do not have much time to go through and hopefully fix your fantasy football team, but I'll try to help if I can. Now let's go ahead. Let's look at the injuries of the day. So Justice Hill doesn't practice. Doesn't matter. You're starting Derrick Henry regardless. Burrow practices in full. It doesn't matter. We already know he's going to play. Devonta Smith did not practice on Tuesday. This will be something to make sure to monitor on Wednesday and Thursday, but just because he missed a Tuesday practice, not going to be the end of the world. He does not play on Thanksgiving. Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden all get in limited sessions. This is going to be very important to monitor because they are obviously playing on Thanksgiving. My expectation will be Jacobs plays, you start Josh Jacobs, and even if the other two guys play, you probably don't start any Packers receivers. There are no buys this week. George Pickens gets in a limited practice on Tuesday. Sounds like he'll be good to go for Thursday. Let's see if we have anything else of note. Amari Hampton has his 21-day practice window opened. We were watching Amari Hampton practice clips today. Super exciting. If Hampton plays, they go up against the Raiders. So he will be somebody that you need to put into your lineup, but no guarantee that he is back officially playing this week. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be playing on Thursday. Do not start Kareem Hunt. Obviously, do not start Isaiah Pacheco. Let's see what else we have to do. I think that's going to be about it for the updates. The main thing is Amari Hampton is back. And again, I tried trading for Amari Hampton in my league last week. Did not work out, but I do wish that I got him. Now let's go ahead and let's dive into some stuff. Here from Sack Attack, quarterback between Purdy, Jared Goff. This week, Goff going up against Green Bay. Purdy goes up against the Browns. Honestly, very close. I probably go Goff. Running back James Cook will be an auto start. I will say that you probably are starting Bam Knight if you don't have Trey Benson, but if Benson plays, you go Kyle Monangai. Wide receiver and flex, you play Waddle, you play Pittman. Tight end, you can have Kate Otten in there. And then you go Alec Pierce, Cortland Sutton in the two flex spots and bench the running backs. Now, J2 Wavy says, what's up, Mason? Injuries hit my team hard, leaving Sutton as my best wide receiver. The deadline's later this week. League is really active. Trading won't be hard. Would love to hear what moves you'd recommend I'd make for a playoff run. Love the content. Keep up the good work, brother. Team of Destiny on top. God bless. God bless, my friend. Hope that you are doing well. And let's see what the team name is. I believe the team name is Pit Crew. There was a small change to the stream mode on the site. Let me know in the chat if y'all notice the change, if y'all like the change, if it matters. But Sam says one quarterback dynasty competing HN Waddle, Egbuka Hall. I would probably opt to go with the Egbuka side in dynasty. Contender, obviously, HN's more valuable. But let's see. We got VV says looks cool. Julio says thank you for the hat. Much appreciated. Thank you for being a member of the flock, my friend. And yeah, still going through and sending out a bunch of hats every single day. So if y'all haven't got your free hat from the free giveaway that we did, hopefully it'll be on the way. But we've sent like 2,000 hats out for free already. But anyway, so I believe the team name's there now. We've lost 2 games straight in this league. And the difficulty that we're going to have here is this is a 14-team start 7 format. So if this is going to be a 14-team league, depth is actually going to matter, and it's going to be tough to find players from the waiver wire. But anyway, we can go ahead and dive into the actual roster itself. Quarterback, we are currently sitting with Jared Goff, Bo Nix, as well as Jacoby Brissett. So quarterback, we're fine. I would say Jacoby Brissett, somebody that's probably worth going ahead and dropping at this point. I would pick up Raheem Mostert with the Ashton Jeanty ankle injury. I did not see any news regarding the Jeanty ankle today, but if Jeanty were to miss, Raheem Mostert in a 14-team league does have value. Now, obviously, we go ahead and we look at running back. We are sitting with Achane, Chase Brown, Jalen Warren. So it's not like you're in a spot in which you really need help at running back. You more so are going to need help at wide receiver. Going over to receiver, we have Courtland Sutton, Alec Pierce, Chris Godwin, Luther Burden, Jerry Jeudy. So yeah, wide receiver is the worst position on this team. Now, if we go through and look at potential moves that you can make here, there's nobody on the waiver wire that's a super compelling pickup. Maybe if you wanted to go through and pick up, you can't even pick up David Njoku. Like, I need to move Britton Strange ahead of David Njoku in our rest of season rankings. I'll do that right now. So waiver wire pivots, the only thing that I would look to do is cut Jacoby Brissett, pick up Raheem Mostert. And then in terms of trades, you're extremely limited because it's a 14-team league. Like, going through and trying to figure out what we could possibly tell you trade-wise. If you go through and if you sell Chase Brown and go pick up a wide receiver for him, then all of a sudden what it does is just makes your flex spot weak, right? Because you really only have 3 startable running backs. Wide receiver, you have 2 startable names. Like, you can start Courtland Sutton. Sutton so far this season is averaging 12.35 fantasy points per game. It's doable, not great. Going over to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is at 10.68, but obviously Alec Pierce has been much, much better since he came back from the injury in week 6. So in terms of what you could actually do on a roster like this, I don't necessarily know where the trades are. Like, again, you sell a running back and you go and get some wide receiver help, then all of a sudden your just flex spot's going to be crap. I hate to say it, but this is a team that you just have to hope Courtland Sutton bounces back and maybe Godwin gets back to where he was last year. And I mean, obviously you don't want to hear that because it's unlikely. But if we go through and if we look at your setup here, you just don't have much value on this roster. Like, the fact of the matter for some teams at this point of the year, it's like, yeah, if you're going to win, your team, something has to happen to it. But I can't tell you like, oh yeah, let's just go sell Courtland Sutton for George Pickens. Like, that ship has sailed. There's no going and making that move at this point. And it's not like you have enough depth at any of the other positions to go through and sell another position for help at wide receiver. I guess the one thing that you could look to do is if you really believe in the combination of like Bo Nix and Jacoby Brissett rest of season, maybe you could try to sell Jackson Dart with Alec Pierce and go and move up to get a better wide receiver. Like, looking at some teams that maybe need help at quarterback, that team has Caleb. They're probably fine. This team has Baker Mayfield, who just got injured, but they don't have anything to help us at wide receiver. This team is starting Marcus Mariota. If you want to offer them Jackson Dart and Alec Pierce and try to get Michael Pittman, you can go for it. But again, it is going to be much, much easier said than done. So I'm sorry. I think that your team's kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I think I would not sell any running back production for wide receiver. I think if there's any expendable piece on your team, it's going to be like Jackson Dart, Bo Nix. But again, much easier said than done than actually selling those names off. Now let's move this over to our next one. This is J2 Wavy is saying, well, could we sell Bo Nix, Chase Brown, Courtland Sutton for Jonathan Taylor? I'll say Taylor wins this and it's not even remotely close. But then left over at wide receiver, you're starting Alec Pierce and Chris Godwin every week. So, like, I would do this out of principle because hopefully you could flip Jonathan Taylor for more. But Still. Okay. Now, Heaven with our next question. Trading Dart, Judkins, and A.J. Brown for Jamar and Lamar Jackson. I know Lamar has been disappointing, but I still very easily would rather have Lamar over Dart rest of season. And I would very easily rather have Jamar Chase over Quinshon Judkins and A.J. Brown. So regardless of your team, give me Lamar and Jamar. Now, Mycon says, teaming first is close to a bye. Got some stud running backs. Wide receiver room is in shambles, though. Deadline coming up and want to trade one of my 3 studs to someone. Only teams that trade are Adolph, Buzz, and Jigba and Alex. Would like Pickens or Waddle, but any advice is appreciated. Okay, I'm going to be honest with some advice here that there is no deal that you can make right now to get your hands on George Pickens. We talked about this earlier in the stream, but that ship has sailed. But any advice is appreciated. Please help. JT got locked in. Any defensive advice? I don't have really any defensive advice. I went through and I picked up, I can just tell you what I did. I went really heavy on the Los Angeles Rams on my waiver wire this past week. Just looking forward. They had a couple of really good matchups upcoming, but they're probably not available on your waiver wire. So I just would say look at the implied team totals of opponents. And honestly, I kind of make decisions if we were picking up a defense based on that. But anyway, so like you said, we are in first and we are close to a bye. This is a 12-team start 7 format. So 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. And this team is absolutely loaded. If you look at this team in the league analyzer in comparison to every other team in this league, it's not even remotely close. And let's see how often you're saying people don't really make trades in this league. So it's very clear if there's a trade to be made on your team, what you want to do. You want to make 2-for-1 deals and improve at wide receiver. The pieces that you could have as expendable assets would be a running back with either Quinshon Judkins or Caleb Williams. You don't necessarily need these running backs. You have Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, tight end, you have Trey McBride and Aronde Gadsden. So, I would say Gadsden's also another expendable piece. So what I would try doing with this team is I would approach maybe a team that needs some help at either running back or a team that needs some help at tight ends. Try to go ahead and try to send them one of the depth running backs or depth tight ends to get an upgrade at receiver. So this team here is dead last in the league analyzer at running back. They have Sean Tucker and Tony Pollard as their top 2 RBs. With Bucky Irving coming back this week, I don't know if they're super excited about starting the combination of Sean Tucker and Tony Pollard. So I would go through, I'd approach him and go, hey, you interested in Quinshon Judkins? Hey, you interested in RJ Harvey? I'd imagine they'd be more willing to trade away Judkins. So that's the guy that I would look to give him. Trade for Judkins. And they have Puka, they have Rice, they have Devontae Adams. So, hell, I would offer them Quinshon Judkins and Garrett Wilson and see if you can get to Devontae Adams. Jamison Williams to see if you can get to Adams. Obviously, if you could get to Rice or Puka, you do it in a heartbeat. Now, obviously, all those trades are much easier said than done. They'll probably reject. We can go ahead and look at this team. This team is ETN, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara. They lost Cam Scatterby. So, I know you're saying that you're interested in trading for George Pickens. Hell, I'll send an offer out. Quinshon Judkins and Jamison Williams, Quinshon Judkins and Garrett Wilson. Whatever it takes to get to George Pickens, to get to CeeDee Lamb, we'll send that offer. And throw in Gadsden as well. It's not like we need Gadsden for anything. This team has Bucky Irving, Kenneth Gainwell as their top 2 backs. They have Justin Jefferson, who obviously is falling down rankings like a rock. But I'd offer them Quinshon Judkins and Jamison Williams for Justin Jefferson. And then again, if you wanted to go through and look at some of those teams that need help at tight end, this team is this team is Hawkinson. I would offer them Aronde Gadsden and Jamison Williams for Igbuka. I know you said a lot of these teams don't make trades, but I'm still going to spam out offers nonetheless. This team has Dalton Schultz at tight end. I would go ahead and offer them the combination of Gadsden and Jamison Williams for Michael Pittman. This team is Kyle Pitts. I would offer them the combination of Gadsden and Ricky Pearsall and see if you can go and get Rome Odunze. Or Gadsden and Jamison Williams, see if you can go get Nico Collins, but that's going to be much easier said than done. And then waiver wire wise, I would cut Darius Slayton. I'd pick up Devin Neal. I'd cut Tez Johnson. I'd pick up Jaden Higgins. And yeah, I think that's it. But you very clearly have a loaded team where you can afford to go and trade for an upgrade at wide receiver. But I really appreciate you and hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. Now let's move this over to our next one, which is going to be from Carr. It says, League is transitioning to Superflex for the 2027-2028 season. I have an offer for Daniel Jones for my second rounder. Could use a quarterback after a subpar year for Love and Baker injured as I make a playoff run. Light on draft capital after trading 2 firsts for Genty. Let me know what you think of both the team and the trade. Big fan. Much love, my friend. Really appreciate you. So this is a contending dynasty team. We are 8-4, so we are second in the standings for this season. And this is a team in which you very much need to go all in on this year and next year. You've traded away your 2026 first. You traded away your 2027 first. So we've already lost a lot of the flexibility where if things were to fall out from underneath us, you don't have the ability to pivot over to a rebuild. So again, I'm not generally a fan of trading away future first that far out, but if you've already done it, we need to react with it. And yeah, going through and looking at where you sit now, a quarterback, yeah, Baker and Love. Again, it's a 1 quarterback format as of right now, but if it's going to be a super flex league in 2027, do you think Daniel Jones is going to be a starting quarterback in 2027? If so, he'll be worth more than a second round pick. And at the same time, if you're a contending team now, like you could realistically view Daniel Jones obviously as an upgrade at quarterback here in the short term. And for that reason, it could help us win right now. Going over to running back, we have Genty, Amari Hampton coming back in, Javonte, Tyrone Tracy. It's a start 9, 1 quarterback format, so pretty deep league. So it's nice having this many startable running backs, especially with Amari Hampton coming back. Wide receiver, you have JSN, Nico Worthy, Jordan Addison, Troy Franklin. So we have plenty of wide receiver depth. And then we have the playable tight end with Jake Ferg. Does appear that this is not a tight end premium format. So it's not like Jake Ferguson's going to be super important for this team, but still nice to have that startable name. But anyway, I mean, this is very clear. You're a contending dynasty team that has traded away its future picks. So we definitely want to kind of go all in and make sure that we can try to win right now. And if we go ahead and we look at the squad, I think you've already done a very good job in building out a contending roster. One thing I would mention is if you wanted to approach some of the rebuilding teams and pivot off a wide receiver like Jordan Addison for more so somebody in a better short-term situation, that could be interesting. Like, let's see if there's a rebuilding team that has a veteran wide receiver that we could possibly trade for. This team has Kyron Williams. Is there anything there? No. I would offer Jordan Addison for Devonta Smith and see what this team has to say. Obviously, we'd rather have Devonta Smith from a short-term rebuilding perspective. Maybe there's a tiny % chance that they would rather have Jordan Addison from a long-term team building perspective. You'd also offer it for Olave. Yeah, I don't see much else here. I think if you were to make a move, one, I do like the idea of you trading away that second round pick, going and getting Daniel Jones. I think it's a completely fine trade. But the second thing that I'd follow up with, again, is I think you'd also be okay if you wanted to go through and actually send away one of those long-term exciting pieces like Jordan Addison, that their situation's holding them back right now, and possibly get yourself a veteran wide receiver that's not exciting in the long term, but could help you produce more in the short term here. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way. And I do stand by. I think that you can trade that second round rookie pick for Daniel Jones if you wanted. Now, Back Mask says, league is a one-player keeper and would be giving a first-round pick alongside with Gadsden to get Rice. So a first-round redraft, I will say, I really don't like the idea of being able to trade away future picks in a one-player keeper league. And a one-player keeper league, it very much is just like a redraft format, which it sucks when redraft formats let you trade away future picks because then it's like, oh, okay. If I really want to win, I kind of got to just sacrifice my next year. So I was like, obviously, I'd rather have Rice over Gadsden. But it comes down to you. Are you willing to sacrifice next season? If so, go for it. But again, I hate leagues like this because it puts you in this very difficult position where it's like, oh, okay, well, if I really want to contend, and other teams are willing to trade away their future picks, then I kind of got to follow suit. But I am wishing you the best of luck, my friend. And I would definitely try to send away like a third or a fourth instead. It says 5-6 on the way to being 6-6. Hopefully, need to avoid the bye weeks. Also offered Igbuka for Tracy and Ladd. I'd rather have Igbuka there. And Tracy versus Kyle Monangai. I understand that Tyron Tracy has the week 14 bye. I don't know if Kyle Monangai is startable though. And Tyron Tracy is at least startable, where he scored 16 points over the past 2 weeks. Has had 20 opportunities over the past 2 weeks as well. Like you can make this move if you really want, but I think it puts you in a worse position this week. I like the idea of trading away Tyron Tracy to a running back that's in a similar range that has already gone through his bye week. I just don't know if Kyle Monangai is in a similar range. So I like the idea. I don't know if I love the exact trade though. Now C Crystal says CMC and Rico have bye weeks for week 1 of the playoffs. I will say I hate leagues that they schedule the playoffs for week 14. Like playoffs should be weeks 15 through 17. But looking at this, if you were not going to have McCaffrey and Dowdle for week 1 of the playoffs, I would trade them for Devon Achane and Jamar Chase in a heartbeat, and I'd be willing to include Ladd McConkey to do it. Obviously, if you had a bye week for round 1 of the playoffs, then it's not relevant. Then you hold on to McCaffrey. But if you don't have a bye, yeah, go out there and trade for 2 players that'll be playing the first round of playoffs for you. Let's go through. C-Spaz says, Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Igbuka versus Burrow, James Cook, Waddle. Lateral move at wide receiver, up to you. Upgrade at running back, downgrade at quarterback. I probably prefer the James Cook side. I think he's the best player in the deal. Now, Zeke ISO, here for the flex. We have... It's just way too early for me to be answering start set questions, to be honest with you. I don't even know how you submitted a start set question. Like if Marv plays, I would play Marv and probably Gadsden. But at the same time, like you may have to make the call on Thursday that if we don't have clarity on Marv, you may end up having to roll with like Christian Watson because he plays earlier. So it's very difficult to answer start set questions on like a Tuesday, to be honest, especially with all the injuries and the Thursday games. Now, H. Marquez is worried about my running back schedules weeks 15 through 18. Why would you be playing in week 18? Week 15, Taylor has Seattle. Week 18, he has Houston, obviously very tough matchups. McCaffrey, on the other hand, he gets Seattle in week 18, but he gets a really nice matchup against the Tennessee Titans in week 15. Here's my thing. You're going to get one extra game from Jonathan Taylor where he doesn't have to go through his bye week still. So for me, I'd prefer JT over Christian McCaffrey. I know JT has the tough schedule. I'm not going to fault you. They're in the same tier. So if you really wanted to make this move, go for it. I just personally would rather have John Taylor. I'd rather get the extra game. Now, Decent Platter says, I'm likely to get a week 15 bye in my playoffs. Any trades or moves you think I can make to secure a championship? Also, do I trade Mahomes for Lamar? Maybe try to squeeze in another piece. No, we do have Mahomes ahead of Lamar in our rest of season ranks. Now, I will say we are absolutely loaded here. We're the number 1 team in the league analyzer, number 2 in the standings, but we have scored 250 more points than the next highest team. Let me see this. Is this working? Come on. Of course not. So if you've scored 200 points more than the next highest team, you're in a very good position where you're not necessarily having to stress much about what we are doing from here. And obviously the main thing that we are thinking about will be the fantasy playoffs. So for a team like ours, not going to be the end of the world considering the fact that McCaffrey still has to go through his bye week. Okay. Quarterback, we have Mahomes as well as CJ Stroud. I don't even know why we're rostering Stroud here. I guess maybe he's on our IR, but I would say if you can open up a roster spot by cutting CJ Stroud, I would. You're literally never starting him. I would go ahead and I'd pick up Kamani Vidal instead. I'd pick up Devin Neal instead. One of the running backs dealing with an injury and they're on backfield. Now running back, we have CMC, Jahmyr Gibbs, Javonte. So we have 3 startable running backs and 2 elite names. It's the reason we've scored 250 more points than the next highest scoring team. We have Chris Rodriguez, Brian Robinson is the handcuff there to CMC. So for me, I mean, if Joe Mixon was actually taking up a roster spot, I would go ahead. I would cut Joe Mixon in favor of picking up a player like Kamani Vidal, picking up a player like Devin Neal. Again, just given the fact that, like I said, they have injuries in their own backfields. Going over to receiver, we have Lamb, Nico, Khalil Shakir. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So here's your lineup. Mahomes, CMC, Gibbs, Lamb, Nico, Javonte in the flex, Trey McBride at tight end, and this is a 12-team format. You are absolutely loaded. I don't know what I could possibly tell you that you'd want to do in this league. Again, maybe there's a move to be made if CJ Stroud or Joe Mixon are actually taking up roster spots from you, but I would imagine that they're probably not. I'd imagine that they're on your IR. But if they're actually taking up roster spots, cut them for Devin Neal and Kamani Vidal. And then outside of that, there's nothing else you could possibly do. I mean, your team is absolutely loaded. And I don't make a trade just to make it. Don't go out there and send away Patrick Mahomes for Lamar Jackson. Again, if you've scored 250 more points than the next highest scoring team in your league, this team's pretty damn good. And honestly, I think Lamb's going to be better going into the future than what he has been. So I think, honestly, the team's probably going to be better. But I appreciate you and hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend, even though I know I wasn't. But the fact of the matter is your team doesn't need any help, to be honest. Okay, now easy dub with our next question. Wide receiver, very difficult for me to answer these questions right now, but here's the thing. I don't know if London's going to play. I don't know if Reed's going to play, right? I'd go Loveland over Brenton Strange, and then if Hampton plays, I'll throw him in there in the flex. And then your next best option, if one of these guys weren't good to go, I'd go Jamison Williams. But again, very difficult for me to answer a start sit question on a Tuesday. Now, Jeremy says, I recently traded Adams for Kittle. Did I make a mistake? I feel like I probably should have traded Smith or Rome instead. I was going to stand put until I lost Dobbins. I ultimately chose to make a move for Harvey, then made a few more. So Adams for Kittle obviously doesn't look that great right now, but it's going to come down to what your wide receiver room looks like. If it was horrible, and here, wide receiver, you have Chase, you have Devonta Smith, you have Rome Odunze, you have Jamison Williams, your wide receiver 4. So it's not horrible, right? I'm not going to sit here and say it was the best move ever made, but it's understandable. Now, quarterback, we have the elite name with Josh Allen. Running back, you have Kyron, RJ Harvey, Trey Benson. Who the hell is this guy? Can chat, can y'all let me know who the hell is Phil Maffa? Am I just super dumb here? Cowboys running back. Cowboys 5th string. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry I'm not smart enough to realize who that is, but I would cut his ass for Raheem Mostert or Blake Corum immediately. Yeah, if Kyron were to go down, Blake Corum's a 1-for-1 fill-in with your team. Your running back room's okay. Like, the depth's going to matter here because it's a start 8 format. So Trey Benson coming back in is going to put you in a better spot, of course, that we actually have that third startable running back just in case RJ Harvey ends up not working out. But I bet RJ Harvey is going to be A-okay as your running back too. And then wide receiver, you have Chase, Devonta Smith, Rome Odunze, J-Mo. I would also cut A.J. Barner. Like, I would cut Phil Maffa. I would cut A.J. Barner. I would pick up Raheem Mostert as well as Blake Corum. And if you can't get both these running backs, I would get Isaiah Pacheco instead. Or actually, instead of Pacheco, you can go Luther Burden. But yeah, I think Phil Maffa, A.J. Barner, pick up Mostert, Burden, Corum, Pacheco. Just 2 of those players, whichever 2 that you end up getting off waivers. And then in terms of trades, there's nothing you can really do. If it was a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I would really like the idea of us going through and trying to send like Rome Odunze and RJ Harvey to go get an upgrade at running back. But because it's a start 8 format, instead, I would actually opt to hopefully hold the depth here. And I don't necessarily think you would need to make that deal to get an improvement inside your starting lineup. But so again, because it's a start 8 league, I really like the team. You're second in the league analyzer in terms of value, third in this league in points. So I don't necessarily think that there's anything that you need to do. And it's a very well-balanced roster as well. No positions ranked lower than 6th in the league analyzer. And it's not like you have a ton of expendable value somewhere else. But I really appreciate you and hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. Now, Pedro with our next question. Trading away Jacobs, Judkins, and Zay Flowers for Puka Nacua. Leftover running back, you'd have Barkley and Alvin Kamara / Devin Neal. So, Chief, I'm sorry. And it's a start 8 format as well. I think you probably got to hold on to the Josh Jacobs, Quinshon Judkins, Zay Flowers side. Is it a horrible trade? No, not at all. But is it something I'd be super excited about? No. Okay. Now, Jonathan with our next one, trading Bucky for Ladd McConkey. Here's the thing. If you held on to Bucky Irving for this long, to then all of a sudden, the week that he is supposed to come back, trade away Bucky Irving for a wide receiver that is currently averaging 12.95 fantasy points per game. What was the point? So no, regardless of your team, if you were selling Bucky at this point, I think that you would need to have a lot more value coming in return. Okay. Now, Hartley trading away Dak, Jefferson, Gadsden for Nico and Kelsey. Dak, Jefferson, Gadsden for Nico and Kelsey. Let me try something real quick. This looks much better. Okay. Jefferson and Nico upgrade. Gadsden and Kelsey, up to you. We're paying Dak Prescott to get it done. And we have Josh Allen. So if you have Josh Allen, Dak's effectively a 0. So yeah, you can do it. Now, Invictus, here, quarterback between Hurts and Burrow. Hurts this week going up against Chicago. If it's a 4-point passing touchdown format, I'll go Hurts. 6-point passing touchdown league, give me Burrow. Running back, you start Jahmyr Gibbs and Trevion Henderson. Wide receiver, you play Sutton. And then in the flex, you go Quinshon Judkins. Now, Riff Raff here, running back. You play Rico Dowdle. And then in the 2 flex spots, you're going to go Pittman and Olave. And if Bucky Irving were to play, then you could possibly take out Pittman for him. Okay. Now, Creamy Baby says, the trade deadline has arrived. I feel like I have the depth to make a 2-for-1 for an A or an S tier player. What would you recommend? P.S. You're the man, Mason. You helped me out a lot this year. Go. Really appreciate you, my friend. And I will say you have the most wild name that I have seen all year long. Not exactly a compliment. But let's go ahead and let's dive into this for you, my friend. Here, quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. So if there was something to do, like, we can maybe find a team that needs a quarterback and go ahead and send them one of these names. Looking at where we stand at running back, we have Bucky possibly coming back this week, which we may need him because Ginty may miss this week. Don't know yet. Then we have RJ Harvey as a quality depth piece. We have Zach Charbonnet as an elite handcuff where if anything were to occur to Kenneth Walker, then all of a sudden he can turn into a must-start player every week. Going over to receiver, we have Rashee Rice. We have Igbuka. We have Deebo Samuel. We have Troy Franklin. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So we don't need help at wide receiver. And then we have the tight end 1 in fantasy with Trey McBride. So obviously we are also A-okay here. So across the board, we have a very good team. If Brandon Ayuk is on our IR, then obviously ignore this. But if Brandon Ayuk was on your actual bench, obviously you would cut Brandon Ayuk and you would go ahead and pick up a player like Kyle Monangai instead. Now, you don't need any individual position. But again, if there was a trade to be made, it would be we're going to go through and we are going to try to send one of the quarterbacks to a QB needy team to get an upgrade at either running back or wide receiver. So it just depends what these QB needy teams actually need. So this team has Jared Goff at quarterback. Running back, they have Kyron and ETN. Is there a world you can send Joe Burrow and RJ for Kyron Williams? They have Nico Collins at wide receiver. Could you send Joe Burrow and Troy Franklin for Nico Collins? This team's sitting with Justin Herbert at quarterback. They have Rico Dowdle at running back. Could you send them RJ Harvey and Jalen Hurts and go ahead and get to Rico Dowdle? Let's see if there's anybody else that could possibly use some help at QB. This team has Bo Nix and Jacoby Brissett. They also have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Could you send them Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts and Egbuka and go ahead and get Amon-Ra St. Brown? But I think that's the only trade that your team could possibly make. Kyle Monangai and Devin Neal are worth roster spots. Like, I would want to pick them up, but you don't really have many players you could cut. Maybe you could cut Loveland for Kyle Monangai. Maybe you could cut Jacoby Myers for Kyle Monangai. But it's not necessarily something that you need to do. But again, the main thing that I would do is just go to those quarterback needy teams and see if you could send them one of Hurts or Joe Burrow now that Burrow's officially back. But really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Now, big woolies with our next one. Quarterback, we're looking at Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, or Jacoby Brissett this week. We'll go Burrow against Baltimore. Should have to throw the ball a decent amount there, 6-point dogs. And then in the flex, we'll take Quinshon Judkins, Woody Marks, and then probably Michael Wilson if Marvin Harrison misses. But if Marvin Harrison plays, then I would go ahead and I'd play Aronde Gadsden or Alec Pierce instead. That's operating under the assumption that Bucky Irving as well as Josh Jacobs are good to go. If Jacobs were to miss, then you take out one of these names to put in Emmanuel Wilson. And then obviously got to monitor Bucky. But again, that's why it's very difficult for me to answer start-set questions on a Tuesday. Now, Jared's Goofs, quarterback between Bo Nix, Caleb, and Brock Purdy. Caleb has a really tough matchup this week against Philly where the projections are super low on the Bears. Bo Nix, you get Washington. I think they had a 25-point implied team total. Brock Purdy, you get Cleveland. I'd probably go Bo Nix. And then in the flex spot, if he plays, I'd probably take Amari Hampton. And if he doesn't, I go Breece Hall. But Amari Hampton does have a really good, he has a really compelling matchup against the Raiders. I'm rooting on his downfall this week because I have to play against him, but seems like he may be in a fine spot. Okay. Now, Lee Gabriel trading away Caleb and Devonta Smith for Josh Allen. Wide receiver, you would have Rashee Rice, Jamison Williams, and Keenan Allen. Trade value wise, give me the Josh Allen side of this. My only holdup is, are you really excited to try to pick the matchups between Keenan Allen and Jamison Williams going into the future? Roll the dice that you get 0 points from JMO or the 9-point ceiling from Keenan. Now, G Cats trading Woody Marks and Jefferson for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jefferson and St. Brown are in a completely different tier at this point where I would 100% go ahead and go for St. Brown. C Mac and Cheese, know you're in the chat. Always happy to see you, my guy. Hope that you are doing well. Says, lost my last game with JT underperforming. Really need a bye. Can you take a look at the league overall and see if I have a good chance at getting the bye? P.S. Whatever the fiance says goes. She saved you from looking like Mr. Clean every week. Thank God. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, my friend. And yeah, I'm going to be honest. If I had to shave my head, it would not have been good at the Dodd household. She would have been unbelievably mad at me. Like, crazy mad. Like, we got into some arguments about me possibly having to shave my head. It was not good. Thank God I didn't have to do it. Thank God. Okay, let's go ahead and let's check this out. We are third in the league analyzer. We're 9-3, just lost this past week. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor gave us the absolute dud this past week. But in terms of going into the future, it's not like we're going to need to be too concerned with the McCaffrey week 14 bye. We're going to be able to roll right through that since we're a playoff team. It doesn't matter too much for us. Quarterback, we have Caleb and Daniels. I do think that Daniels is still worth a roster spot because if he were to come back, obviously we'd be happy to start him over Caleb. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, so the depth's not going to matter a ton. So when we have 2 top-end studs like Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, they're going to be able to carry our team for us. We have Sean Tucker as the depth piece. We have Byshell Tootin also as that top-end handcuff. Going over and looking at what we have with Michael Pittman, Wan'Dale Robinson, Khalil Shakir, Garrett Wilson. Really the only wide receiver that I would say that you could possibly try to sell here would probably be Garrett Wilson. But again, we're a 9-3 team, so nobody's going to value Garrett Wilson more than we would for ourselves. As Wilson probably back by the time we get to the fantasy playoffs. And then we possibly have Jaden Reed coming back this week. And obviously, I can't sit here and say that Jaden Reed's going to be a super easy start every week going into the future. We'll just have to see what happens. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think of what we could possibly do with this team. I mean, I would really want to pick up Colson Loveland. But who would you drop? Like, Theo Johnson was just getting absolutely, never mind. I was going to say flooded with targets. He only had 5. It seemed like he had a hell of a lot more than 5 targets, but I guess maybe I was wrong. But Theo Johnson versus Loveland, it's not like they're that far off. What could you possibly do with this team? Like, where's the expendable value of a player that we don't exactly need, but we could sell him to another roster? Because that's the main thing that I always look at in like, oh, potential trades. It's like, oh, we have this little trade piece that we could use as a leverage point to get an upgrade elsewhere. Like, if I go through and look at that here, it's just not really, like, it's non-existent. Oh, you're saying the trade deadline passed. Oh, I'm sorry, my friend. So, in terms of our odds of getting the bye, there are 3 9-3 teams, right? There are 3 9-3 teams. There's 1 8-4 team. If you win the next 2 weeks, we essentially have the guaranteed bye. As we have a pretty big points tie break over one of the 9-3 teams. The only holdup is you're going to have to deal with the Christian McCaffrey week 14 bye. And with that setup, obviously, you put yourself in a little bit of a difficult position. But this week, I have no idea. Like, if I mean, as somebody who just had to play against Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, tell you, definitely never looking forward to that. So I think you're likely to get a bye, more likely than not. The only holdup is that week 14 matchups maybe going to be a little bit tough here. But in terms of moves to make with the team, I don't think there's really much. Again, I do think that there are players worth picking up off waivers. The difficult thing is it's just very tough to tell you to go through and drop any of the names that you have on this team. But I appreciate you and wish I had more for you, my friend. And let me know in the chat, obviously, if you ever have any questions. Now, the Cowboys fan is trading away Caleb Tetero McMillan for Drake May and Khalil Shakir. Okay, Caleb to May, give me May. Tetero McMillan to Shakir, give me Tetero McMillan. Leftover receiver, you'd have Rice, London, Alec Pierce. It's a start 8 format. I probably make this deal for May, but I don't know if it is super easy. Now, Pepe trading Judkins and Xavier Worthy for Amari Hampton. I would rather have Amari Hampton over Judkins, and Xavier Worthy is not startable at this point. So, yes, I would probably go ahead and make this move. It's the easiest. Is it the easiest thing in the world? No, but with Hampton officially back at practice today, I think it's worth doing. Okay. Now, Smoking Beef, Clapping Cheeks out here says, finally approaching the playoffs. Thanks for all the help this season. Trade deadline's Thursday. Trying to see if there are any last minute deals I should make. Back to the Top is desperate to make the playoffs and really is only the only folks I'd be interested in. It's going to be tough for us to make a trade in general because we are currently sitting here. Let me see how this looks on the. Okay, that looks fine. We're sitting here at the top of the league analyzer, right? Like if we go through and look at this, we have the second best quarterback room in this league, the number one best running back room, the second best wide receiver room. Really, our only positional need is going to be tight ends. Now, quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts and Matthew Stafford. I mean, Matthew Stafford's a quarterback that you could see a lot of people actually wanting. And obviously, we don't necessarily need him if we have Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, I possibly would go out there and see what deals could be available if we were to go ahead and if we were to throw Stafford to a QB needy team. Like this team is Bo Nix. If I were them, I'd be interested in Stafford. They don't really have much that we'd be interested in. Maybe if you wanted to go like Stafford and Genty to get to Javonte. Says 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. This team has Caleb, Kyler. If you wanted to offer them Jalen Hurts and Travis Kelce. I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts and Colson Loveland to try to get to Brock Bowers. I would go ahead and send that offer out and see what they say. Are there any other teams that could use help at quarterback? This team has like Jacoby Brissett that they're starting, but they don't have anybody that we'd be interested in, really. This team is Herbert and Purdy. I would offer, they're never going to give you Trey McBride. The back to the top team is the other top team in this league. And here's the issue with trading with them. What do they need? There's no very clear need that we can go ahead and look at their roster with and say like, oh yeah, it's simple. Let's make this move. They need a running back. Let's send them a running back. It's like, no, they don't need anything. Um, Running back, we have Gibbs, Achan, Genty, Woody Marks is our running back 4. I mean, so if you could go through and maybe take the depth running back piece, like Woody Marks, and send him in a 2-for-1 deal with Loveland to go get a tight end upgrade, or Genty to go get a tight end upgrade. Like, again, this Bowers team has Jalen Warren, Kenneth Walker as their top 2 running backs. Maybe you offer them Matthew Stafford, or maybe you go Jalen Hurts, Woody Marks, and Colson Loveland and try to send them that package for Brock Bowers. But then at wide receiver, we have Chase, Pickens, Brian Thomas, Terry. So we're A-okay here. And then tight end, we have Loveland and A.J. Barner. I would say, like, personally, I would drop A.J. Barner for Kyle Monangai, even if we don't necessarily need help at running back, where we definitely do need help at tight ends. But I would still make that kind of move. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. But again, it is going to be very difficult for us to help much here, just knowing that you have the best team in this league. Your team's incredible with really not many needs. But if you can go and trade for a better tight end, then yeah, let's do that. Okay. Let's move this over. And I see Bitter Hornet in the chat, and I know we have a couple Bitter Hornet questions we're going to get to in just one second. But let me go ahead and we got to log out, log back in. So give me 1 second to do that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And I'm going to filter down to the quick questions, the start set questions, the trade questions, so we can make sure that we get to those in time. Okay, now to go coming through for the flex. You start Chase Brown and Chris Olave in a full PPR format, and you bench Judkins. The Browns project horribly this week, and obviously Judkins won't catch the ball. Now, Indre is trading Jalen Hurts and Ashton Genty for Josh Allen. Leftover at running back, you'd have ETN, RJ Harvey, and then Kenneth Gainwell. So, as somebody who has Josh Allen on their own team, I would possibly trade Josh Allen for Jalen Hurts and Ashton Genty. Like, looking at this, what's the actual points per game drop between Allen and Hurts? Allen's at 23.2 points per game. Hurts is at 21, so it's a 2 point per game difference so far this season. Now, clutch box here at wide receiver between Ladd and Diggs, probably going to go Ladd. And then in the flex, oh dear God, I'd probably go Jalen Warren. It's either Jalen Warren or Diggs. Now, Bitter Hornet says, getting healthy Daniels Burrow coming off the IR, drop Brian Robinson or Ramadre. They're both just handcuff running backs. You're never starting either one of these guys. So I would honestly, for your team, you're in such a good spot. Maybe you just play it safe. And honestly, maybe you just go ahead and drop Ramadre, knowing that you have McCaffrey. Higgins coming back next week, hopefully, so they have a chance to start at some point. So I would throw Woody Marks here in the flex for sure. And then, yeah, I do think that you probably have T. Higgins coming back 1 week from now. And then looking at quarterback, yeah, you have Burrow coming off the IR. So yeah, I would probably drop Ramondre there, my guy. But I know you're in the chat, so if there's anything else that you want us to look at, just let me know. I'd be happy to check it out for you. Okay. Now, Zach, here at wide receiver, probably go DK Metcalf. And then in the flex, we're going to play Javonte. But Javonte does have a horrible matchup against KC. Alex trading Lamar and Michael Wilson for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Regardless of what the team looks like, I'm going to go St. Brown there. And it's not super close either. Okay. Now, Gage. Wide receiver between Jennings, Pearsall, Quentin Johnson, J-Mo. Absolutely brutal, but I would probably go Quentin Johnson. And then the flex, you either go Juwan Jennings or if Bucky Irving misses, you go Sean Tucker. But I would probably expect that Bucky Irving is actually going to play this week. So I don't know if you can start Sean Tucker. Now, cultivated jury. Here for the flex, you play Zay Flowers for sure in one of these spots. And then it comes down to DeAndre Swift, Keenan, or Xavier Worthy. Like, Swift is losing his job. And at the same time, you have a really tough matchup. So it's incredibly difficult to tell you to go Swift, but I don't know how I could tell you to go Keenan. I don't know how I can tell you to go Worthy. They haven't scored more than 12 points in 2 months. Yeah. So that last flex spot's horrible. HJP says point per completion, 6-point passing touchdown. We go Burrow in that case. And then also rank Jaden Higgins, Mechie, Chimera DK, and Adonai Mitchell. I prefer Jaden Higgins out of that group. Running back, you go Amari Hampton, assuming he plays. Wide receiver, Igbuka, Tedero, McMillan. And then for the flex, Trey Benson. And then if either of the running backs miss, then you throw in Keenan Allen in the flex. Himothy, quarterback, play Burrow. Running back, you're going to go Brees. And then in the flex, you play Igbuka. Honestly, kind of regardless of Baker's availability. Now, Bitter Hornet with our next question here. Says, got Reed and Daniels coming off the IR. Who to drop to make room? Burden and oh my gosh, Burden and probably Hubbard. But that's tough. I mean, I don't want to tell you, like, in general, I want to tell people to pick up Burden, not drop him. And Chief Keef here, quarterback between Burrow and Stafford. Stafford this week gets Carolina. They're making a case for Stafford's MVP. They're going to let him keep throwing in the second half. And you have no Higgins yet for Burrow, so I'd probably go Stafford. Running back, you go Hampton and Jalen Warren. And in the flex, you go Jefferson and probably Devonta Smith if he plays. And then obviously if Hampton were to miss, you can pivot over to Judkins. Now, bank here at quarterback between Dart as well as Bo Nix. You get Dart playing in New England, but I mean, every game that he has started, 26, 27, 19, 28, 23, 15 and a half. Fantasy points, you probably just have to go Jackson Dart with the rushing upside. And then in the flex, you sadly have to play Quinshon Judkins, but if possible, I really like avoiding Quinshon Judkins just given 0 receiving usage and a garbage offense. Now, Beto, always happy to see you, my friend. Between Caleb and Stafford for sure. Running back, Bijan for sure. Wide receiver, Lamb. Brian Thomas, if he plays. Tight end, Tyler Warren. Then in the flexes, Ashton Genty and Devin Neal. But your next best name would be Xavier Worthy if you were to get Genty or Brian Thomas missing. Now, dreams here at quarterback between Dak and Burrow. I probably go Burrow, even though Dak's in a game that projects score way more points. Running back, you're playing Quinshon Judkins and Trey Benson under the assumption that Benson plays, Bucky plays, and Jacobs plays. Now, if Jacobs were to miss, obviously, based on what we just saw, you would go ahead and instead you'd play Emmanuel Wilson. And then going over to tight ends between Schultz and Loveland, give me Loveland. And then in the flex, Nico Collins. At 13, Finch trading away RJRV to ETN upgrade, Lamb to Chase upgrade, and you're paying Tedero McMillan to get it done. And a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and make this move. Now, JG is trading away Kenneth Walker and Quentin Johnston for Devonta Smith. If you have enough running back depth, I think you can make the deal. 10-team league in general, I like making those 2-for-1 deals to get improvements in the starting lineup. Now, Seawood is trading away James Cook, Woody Marks, Tedero McMillan for Aaron Jones and Jamar Chase. So, James Cook to Jamar upgrade, Woody Marks to Aaron Jones, up to you. And then you're paying Tedero McMillan to get it done. Leftover at running back, you'd have Bucky Irving, Trey Benson, and Aaron Jones. So it's a fair deal, and I'm not going to fault you for going through and making it, especially knowing that you have Burrow. So if you really wanted the Chase Burrow stack, but not the easiest call here, to be honest, as it would put you in a very compromising position at running back. Okay. Now, our next question is going to be from Ken Powell. Running back, you play Dowdle. Wide receiver, you play Nico. And then in the flex, you play Igbuka. Outside of the instance in which you have no Josh Jacobs, then you obviously put in Emmanuel Wilson instead. Now, to Killer Whale, here for the flex, if Bucky and Henderson both play, it's just too early to know. I put Henderson ahead of Bucky in my rankings this week. But we're just going to have to hopefully get some Bucky updates. Like if they tell us tomorrow, hey, Bucky is A-okay, 100% good to go, then obviously Bucky would be in play and you could look at putting him in over Trevion Henderson. It's just tough to say that right now. Foster Boss trading Rome and Devonta Smith for Igbuka. To 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. You only have Nico Collins outside of this. So if you only have Nico, it's actually not a super easy trade to tell you to make. I would still probably do this deal. But again, not a super easy one. Now, Tim here at running back, ETN, Amari Hampton, wide receiver, Rice, Nico, Egbuka. The only swaps would be that if Jacobs were to miss, then obviously you're going to go ahead. You're going to get Emmanuel Wilson in. If Amari Hampton were to miss, then you'd play Judkins in his spot. Now, Max, best player you have on the bench right now is Metcalf. I would not put Metcalf in over any of the names in your starting lineup. Okay, let's refresh this. We got Jason, running back, play Chase Brown over Judkins. And then in the flex, play Waddle. And I guess you got to go with Judkins, even though it's not fun. And then Houston, you play Chase Brown, Bucky Irving. If Bucky Irving's good to go. And the flex, you go Harold Fandon over Britton Strange. I'm sorry, tight ends. And then in the flex, you go Devonta Smith. Now, if Bucky Irving does not play, you pivot over to Kenneth Walker, where the Seahawks are like 11-point favorites. But let me go ahead and send out some free questions real quick. If y'all want to qualify for free questions, really simple. All you got to do is go down there, drop a like on the live stream, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the live chats. And let me pull that up so we can send out some of those free questions to y'all. Go Mind of Mar. Just found you, my friend. Just sent you over a free start set question. Send this one out to Brandon. Just found you. Just sent you over that free start set question. Let's send this to Valid Crash Outs. Cannot find you. I don't know if you use code FLOCK on the site when you signed up. If not, you can add it to your account page. That way the next time you win something, you can, we can go ahead and find you. But I think we will probably call the stream here, ladies and gentlemen. I know we have those 3 team reviews. Actually, no, let me check this out for TFSE Rob, because he's saying his trade deadline is noon on Wednesday. So we got to make sure we get to this now. So say Mason, 7-5, trade deadline is noon Eastern on Wednesday. Any advice is appreciated. Thanks as always. Thank you for sticking with me for so long, my friend. Well, I'm probably not going to be able to answer many trade questions before that deadline. So let me send you over a couple free start set questions. And yeah, we've still been in this same spot all year where my JSNs is the number 1 team in the league analyzer. And we are the number 2. Andre Yoshivash, very easy cut. I would cut him for Devin Neal, Raheem Mostert, Luther Burden, or Chris Rodriguez. Quarterback, we have Stafford, Jaden Daniels. So obviously we are chilling here at quarterback. There's not too much to stress about on this front. Running back, we have the combination of Bijan, Amari Hampton, RJ Harvey. So So we have 3 startable running backs, like Kamani Vidal, obviously filling in for Amari Hampton, but we're not going to be able to trade him for anything. The biggest issue with your team is you now have no wide receiver depth, considering the fact that Jordan Addison has turned to absolute dust. Now, if there's anything to do with it, I don't see what a trade could be. Like, if you could find somebody in your league that'd be excited to trade for Loveland, obviously it'd be nice to send them Loveland and Addison in a 2-for-1 deal to go ahead and get that upgrade at wide receiver depth. But I don't know if that's going to be as easy as just making there's no trade for this team to make. If it was a double flex format, I would say we'd really need to trade one of the tight ends for a wide receiver. But because it's only a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, you're starting Jamar, Igbuka, Bijan, Hampton, Harvey. You don't have much depth underneath, or at least depth that people aren't going to trade for. I mean, in a pinch, maybe Addison, maybe Jaden Reed give you some upside. Really, the only thing that I would like to do with this team is I would cut Andre Yoshivash. I'd pick up Devin Neal, Raheem Mostert, Luther Burden, Chris Rodriguez, any of those 4 players that you could get. And then also, again, I mean, if you could find a tight and needy team that would somewhat be interested in Colson Loveland, where you could send them Loveland and Addison to go get a wide receiver upgrade, we would. But again, much, much easier said than done. But I really appreciate you and hope that I was able to help you out in some way here, my friend. But let's mark that as complete. And then actually we got to get this for Logan too, because it says just traded Diggs for Dart, Dobbs, and Tez today. Dobbs and Tez are literal zeros. I'd say cut Tez. So you essentially traded Stephon Diggs for Jackson Dart in my mind. If I win this week, I clinch the bye. Just looking for general thoughts. Trade deadline is tomorrow morning. Okay. We are the 4th team in the league analyzer in terms of the power rankings. We are the 2nd team, though, in points scored. And again, we're 9-3. So if we look at the records in this league, you win this league. I mean, with this win this week, you've clinched the bye. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. And honestly, trading away Diggs for Baker maybe did make a little bit of sense here, just given the fact that, Diggs for Dart, because you get Baker injured. Looking at where we stand at running back, you have Barkley, Ashton Genty. So you are very much going to need to pick up a short-term running back just in case you were to get that injury. With the Genty injury, you may want like Devin Neal or Raheem Mostert. So I would cut Tez Johnson, which I know we said that we were going to say out the gate. Wide receiver, you have JSN, Drake London. So you're really hoping London comes back. You're maybe going to be in a very difficult position if we don't have clarity with the London injury by the time you got to make that call on Thursday to potentially start Romeo Doubs there at wide receiver. Just knowing that obviously London's playing on Sunday, Doubs plays on Thursday. So there's a world in which you may end up having to actually cut like Romeo Doubs and pick up Jaden Reed just to give you a last minute pivot in case London's not good to go. And then you've sold all your depth, obviously, to go out there and solve that hole at quarterback, which you could have picked up Brock Purdy for free, but I'm completely fine if you wanted to trade away Dart, if Dart can go back to doing what he did previously. So the main thing that I would do is I would cut Tez Johnson. I'd pick up Devin Neal. And you could also consider cutting Isaiah Pacheco and picking up Jaden Higgins. That way, if London's not good to go on Sunday, you actually have an option that you could pivot to. But overall, there's no expendable depth with this team for you to trade at this point. So it is all just us needing to go ahead and make those waiver wire pivots, which I'd cut Pacheco, cut Tez Johnson, pick up like Devin Neal, Jaden Higgins, or if you can't get Devin Neal, Raheem Mostert. But Devin Neal would be my preference. Now, really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Okay. But I think, let me refresh. Nary here this week. I'm going to answer your start set question tomorrow. This isn't time sensitive, and I'll have a better answer for you tomorrow, to be honest. But much love, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you hanging out with us here. I will be live tomorrow, of course, to answer the rest of your questions. I am wishing you the best of luck this week. I hope you have a phenomenal Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for y'all. It goes without being said, but I need to say it anyway. So much love. I will see you tomorrow. And if not, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.